Hello and welcome to Defence Line, our weekly show on defence, security and more. In this show today, we trace the long and significant 50-year journey of the MiG-21 aircraft in the Indian Air Force. Many recall its stellar track record and compare it to a faithful but highly demanding wife, while others dub it as a flying coffin and a widowmaker. We discuss this mainstay of the Air Force with Air Vice Marshal H.P.S. Sidhu, a fighter pilot who commanded a MiG squadron, Air Vice Marshal M.S. Barrard, also a fighter pilot who has flown the MiGs extensively, and Air Marshal M.M. Singh, former AOC-in-C Western Command and a fighter pilot. Gentlemen, welcome to the discussion. But first, look at this report.
It was for the first time in 1963 when India's first truly supersonic fighter soared into the sky with a sonic boom to shatter the calm. 50 years on, the MiG-21 aircraft is flying high in the Indian skies. MiG-21s are at the forefront of air operations during the 1965 and 1971 wars. The Russian fighter aircraft played a pivotal role in providing India the upper hand over Pakistan, outgunning Pakistani Sabre and Star fighters. During the Indo-Pak War of 1971, the IAF MiG-21s claimed 4 PAF F-104s, 2 PAF F-6, 1 PAF North American F-86 Sabre and 1 PAF Lockheed C-130 Hercules. It was the MiG-21s that hit the Dhaka government house with rockets on December 14th to force Pakistan's abject surrender in 1971. However, in the later years, its stellar track record got hugely marred, earning the epithet of a flying coffin or a widowmaker. More than 100 Indian fighter pilots have lost their lives in MiG-21 crashes. Defence Minister A.K. Antony had informed the Rajya Sabha in May 2012 that India had lost more than half of its MiG combat fleet of 872 aircraft. The minister had disclosed that 482 MiG aircraft accidents took place till April 19, 2012. However, the single-engine fighter is not going to fade away anytime soon. This as the IAF is faced with a depleting number of fighter squadrons as well as an inordinate delay in the indigenous Tejas Light Combat Aircraft project. Also coupled with the excruciating slow pace of new acquisitions, the IAF has plans to operate over 100 upgraded MiG-21 Bisons at least till 2017. Even today, while older MiG-21 variants, MiG-23s and MiG-25s have been phased out, IAF still has almost 200 MiG-21 fighters, over 100 MiG-27s and 60 MiG-29s.
We are in discussion with three retired air marshals who have also been fighter pilots. Air Marshal M.M. Singh, will start with you. You were commissioned way back in 1951, yes, a long and significant career.
I started my career flying Spitfire Mark 18s, Tempest 2s, Vampires, Hunters, Gnats and MiGs. Well, I didn't command a MiG squadron, but commanded a station with MiGs.
Can you describe us briefly the transition from the earlier aircraft to the MiG-21s?
You see, MiG-21 came just after 62 and there wasn't much problem because experienced pilots from Hunters, especially Hunters mostly, they were picked up. H.E. Marshal Dilbagh Singh was the CEO of the first squadron.
Okay.
It was a 28 squadron. They picked up. They didn't have any problem with talk to. I remember I was at that time a squad leader and came down to Chandigarh where the first squadron was based. And we talked to the pilots there, and they said with the 2,000 hours in Hunters, we didn't have any problem flying the.
But Air Marshal, you first flew the Hunters and the Gnats, and so when the transition to the MiG-21s happened, how did you feel?
Nothing very much. It had an afterburner, and slightly higher. The first MiG was Type 77. It had a slightly steeper approach angle, which after about 4 or 5 hours you got quite used to it. And it was not a demanding aircraft. It was quite a simple aircraft.
Very safe to fly. Very forgiving.
In fact, we had some of the features which the fighters didn't have. Things like leveling button. You press a button and the wing became level. I remember when we didn't have advanced trainer, we were using Hunters as advanced trainers. When the Hunters got phased out, then we had no choice but to go straight from Kiran to MiGs. That was demanding for the pilots at that time.
AVM Sidhu, though 50 years is not much of an age, but for an aircraft, I think it's quite an age. Do you think the MiG-21 should have been phased out much earlier?
Certainly, sir. There's no doubt about it. The aircraft had a service life. As per the Air Force plans, it should have been phased out by 2005, by the latest. It's because there was no replacement available that we kept stretching it, giving it extra life, and we were using it, no doubt. Like everyone said, it was a good aircraft, but I perceive differently. It was a good aircraft, easy to fly, by experienced pilots.
But not for the rookie pilots.
Well, not for the rookie and the beginning ones, and no supervisors at all. The ones that, when we commanded, it was difficult to have them fly with people with very low experience supervising.
Now, you've flown the different variants of the MiG-21. We've got 3 variants, the FL, the M and the BIS. How is one different from the other?
Well, sir, the airframe basically was the same.
Okay.
That started with the F and the FL and then the M and the MF. The avionics and the engine got upgraded. The fact is that it was a high speed, produced as a high speed, high level dash interceptor.
Okay.
But later modified and re-optimized for ground attack role. So the aircraft transitioned from what it is produced over 40 years and what it is used for towards the end.
Right.
What it is now.
AVM Brad, MiG-21 has been the mainstay of the Indian Air Force for a very long time. What do you think are the strengths of the MiG-21, especially when compared with, let's say, the Sabre jets of Pakistan or the Starfighters?
You see, the performance of the MiG-21 is far superior in the vertical roll, where it has got more power. The Sabre has got a better turning performance, whereas the delta wing of the MiG-21, the turning performance is slightly less. However, the 104, the MiG-21 is far superior to the 104. It's got its better acceleration, better turning performance.
You mentioned that 3 aircraft in the Western Sector 71,
yes,
where MiG-21 actually met the Starfighter all three times.
Okay.
MiG-21 had no difficulty in shooting
taking them on. And AVM Brad, if we were to talk about the weaknesses of the aircraft, if any, what would these be? The single engine aircraft, is that a weakness?
I don't think so. This engine has proved it to be very, very reliable. Yes, if close to the ground, if any small, birds or anything gets sucked in, the engine would give way. And the way we used this aeroplane, there was never any problem. Though I had my first ejection in Jamnagar, but that was for different reasons. The engine was corroded.
Was it an aircraft which had been imported, or was it assembled in HAL?
This was assembled in HAL.
Okay. So, is that one of the problem areas, Air Marshal, the ones which have been assembled in HAL?
No, it is true that quality control exercise by HAL at Nasik, as well as in Korapet even, engines made in Korapet. It is not the same. I mean, I don't want to sound unpatriotic,
okay,
but the fact is, it's a fact. And accident rate, if you take year-wise, you take what they call flyway aircraft and the HAL made aircraft. There will be marked difference in the accident rate.
During the 65 and the 71 wars, did you get a chance to fly the MiG-21?
No, I was flying NATs, the Hunter in one war and NAT in another war.
But you commanded a station with MiG-21.
Yes.
So, what was the performance of the MiG-21 against the enemy?
Well, Tespo, MiG-21 was a mainstay in the Eastern Theatre, and it kept both Dhaka as well as Tesgaon, Kamitola and Tesgaon runways out of action only by MiGs, by using dive bombing techniques. And it was so accurate that Pakistani believed that the Russians had given us a homing bombs.
Okay.
But it was just normal dumb iron bombs will be used, and it was good training for pilots. Plus also basically the aircraft was stable in dive.
Kanwar, I'd just like to put this in perspective.
Right.
When we're talking of MiGs, when Malpreet sir and I started flying, it was top of the tops. It's like a rookie pilot or a young pilot looking to fly Rafale and looking to fly a Su-30M, KK, you were not allowed to go and see these aircraft. They were guarded, and as if it's a super secret weapon, and you had to do a special medical, and 50% of the people were not fit for flying these aircraft. So at that time, and that time and space, the technology was top of the tops. And you look forward to, you kept your chest out and buttoned open and say, I'm flying MiG-21. So you can't look at that today. It's like...
so when did you first fly the MiG-21?
In 1970. And
so did you get a chance to fly this in the 71 war?
Unfortunately, they felt that the Mr. is still going and probably do a better ground attack job. So they put us back in 3 squadron. 3 was to convert to MiG-21s. War was coming. So they got Mr. back, and we flew in the war in a Mr., which was again a great aircraft to fly for ground attack. Without doubt, it had its problems. We won't talk about that. But not to say, just after the war, we said, hey, giving a Mr. back, we're going to fly MiG-21s. So it was looked at in that manner.
Did you get a chance to fly the MiG-21?
I was operating from Jamnagar. We flew a couple of sorties to striking Badin, their radars. In fact, we lost our CO also at one of these sorties there. Wing Commander Gill, high-speed Gill. But our aircraft, we took rockets, and it had very good results.
So is it usual for the commanding officer also to fly during the war?
Yes, sir, very much so, very much so.
Very interesting, very heartening. AVM Sidhu, can you talk about the early years when you were posted in Chandigarh and you converted to the MiGs?
Kabir, it was really a nostalgic time, and I think most of us who did our early conversions, Chandigarh was a young town, the young people, and
you were young too at that time.
First squadron here, and young fed-up pilots on MiG-21s and Royal Enfields, staying in the best kothis and messes in sector 7, 8 and 9. And there were small kothis were taken over as messes, so there were a couple of them, and we were toast of the town, with the best of town.
Well, great to recall those years. But AVM Sidhu, since all 3 of you said that MiG-21, at least at that point in time, was an excellent aircraft. But the statistics are not so glowing. Of the 872 MiG-21s inducted, as many as 380 have crashed. Now, isn't that worrying?
So, I think we discussed this earlier, and I'll again have to give you a little perspective on the issue. It is basically an excellent aircraft to fly for an experienced pilot. But in late 70s and early 80s, we started inducting Mirages and Jaguars. I happened to be in the Peace Staff, what is called the personal branch. We pulled out some of our best pilots, much as we did from Hunters and Misters to MiG-21s, from the MiG-21 squadrons too fast, and put them in Jaguars and Mirages. But the problem was that we didn't have too many pilots, because the Emergency Commission bulge courses were now thinning out. The waste had occurred. Air Force personal policies were really horrendous. They cut off intake, and there were no more supervisors. So the squadrons were in a state, MiG-21 squadrons were in state, operational squadrons, that there would be a CO much like the present infantry battalions, with 1 or 2 supervisors and a horde of young people coming in.
And also no trainer aircraft.
And the trainer aircraft, the intermediate trainer or the advanced trainer was running out, and we were using much of these aircraft, and the load was coming on fighter squadrons to train them. The inadequate hours, the pilots would have inadequate hours and come there. Now, this aircraft was not designed for low altitude roles. Its gust ride was horrible. Although it had all this, leveling fancy stuff, but you're expected to do all sorts of things at night, dark nights. It was not designed for all those kind of things. And these young pilots who didn't have the experience, they are the ones they crashed in a second.
But did the earlier
I'd like to further. The engine was great for high speed, high altitude dash. It was a high compression engine. A compressor stall was very easy to get into in combat situations for youngsters, not for people like Manpreet sir and all. They could recover from it. Otherwise, you got into a situation a young fellow wouldn't recover from it. So, those are the years that the accident rate started going up. These young pilots started losing lives. They won't eject. You could eject. The seats were very, very reliable and safe. They couldn't perceive the situation.
Good that you put things in some perspective,
the aircraft became maligned in those years. In late 80s, all these funny names started coming up. Otherwise, most of us have flown these aircraft. Reliable is good if you can handle it.
Right.
You have experience.
AVM Brar, let me read out a very provocative statement. The credo of the Air Force is fight to fly to fight, and fight to win. But for MiG-21, many say it is fly to die. How do you react to that?
This is a ridiculous statement.
Okay.
And I totally disagree with this. And you give me aircraft even to fly today, I am willing to fly the MiG-21s. It is such a beautiful aeroplane.
You say that despite the fact that you had to eject from it twice?
I still flew the Su-30 before I retired.
Okay.
But I wanted to get into the cockpit. But 16 years I couldn't get my medical category. But however, I like to say something on the training, which is most important on any aircraft. It is not only the MiG-21, could be Jaguar or Mirage or anyone. When we went on to the MiG-21s, we had 200 hours on the Hunters. And when we switched over to the MiG-21s, it took me 2 sorties to go solo.
Okay.
There was hardly any change. But for me, I knew that this was not all that easy to land after, like I was flying the Hunter. Hunter was it was so simple to land. This one was a little tricky. It had a long nose in front. The visibility in front was limited against what we flew earlier.
Right. And Air Marshal M.M. Singh, since you're talking of the crashes, of the 1,050 crashes recorded by the Air Force since 1970, over 480 have been MiG aircraft, various variants of the MiG aircraft. Now, this must be devastating for the families. At least in half of these accidents, the pilots' lives were lost.
So, may I just remind you
okay.
that losing 400 aircraft in 50 years come to 7 to 8 aircraft a year, which is absolutely par for the course. The Air Force has been, to my knowledge, losing roughly about 10 to 11 aircraft every year. And if 90% of the fleet…
How does this rate compare with the other air forces?
It is similar to developing country air forces,
okay.
But US Air Force rate is roughly half.
Now, you commanded a station, you commanded the Western Fleet. Was there ever a demand to phase out the MiG-21s?
In 1970, they were out of question. They were the frontline aircraft.
Okay.
They were the frontline. It's only till MiG-23s came as a panic buy when the Americans gifted the Pakistan F-16s. Then we got MiG-23s. Before that, MiG-21 could handle
whatever the enemy had.
Starfighter, Mirage 3, Mirage 5, you could handle it comfortably.
AVM Sidhu, I believe MiG-21 has a very high takeoff and landing speed. Is that a problem area?
Well, in a manner of speaking, yes. But Mr. also put it earlier, if you are experienced, you transition easily. But if you are going to touch down at 280 to 300 kilometers and the youngster has no experience in handling fighters per se, it is a difficult job to do. The approach of a MiG-21 has a very narrow margin of error. You can get into a situation that recovery on the approach is difficult from a gust ride or a wind shear or something like that,
okay.
Which can happen in India. It's normal. So the landings can be awkward. So the issue is that it is not easy to land a MiG-21 for an inexperienced pilot.
But Doc, may I interrupt? My very limited experience in MiG-21, I admit. But I found that FL,
that's
what
the
he
initial,
says, absolutely correct. What he says, it had a very steep approach angle, and you have to flare out, I would say, good about 100 meters off the ground, something. But the later variant of MiG, the BIS, as well as the MF, they were landing at very much lower speeds.
So the flaps were
much lower speed. But then, I mean, thing is, you can't compare a Hunter with a supersonic aircraft. It's got a thin wing. And
right. You want to say something?
No, I want to say, so that we are not accepting the fact, and we said that airframe was designed for high speed, high altitude interception. The airframe never changed. Avionics, and there were other sort of engine upgrades, etc., etc. And of course, there were blown flaps, the Marshal said. But airframe never changed. Blown flaps gave you a little better margin of error on landing. Now, the Mirages, the Hunters were earlier extremely fighter pilot's dream, it was. I mean, we flew Misters, we always envious Hunter pilot.
Okay.
So, no, it was, and the Mirages that succeeded it as a fighter aircraft had fly-by-wire. It was a piece of cake to land the aircraft. You just have to look at the HUD and just go and land.
Right, even since you're running out of time, it appears that the later variant MiG-21 Bison will be with us till at least 2017. Are you comfortable with that?
We have no choice. There's such large gaps in our national security from the air envelope from both our eastern and western front, and the government has actually delayed induction. It has known all along that these gaps are going to develop. They developed and they're continuing to exasperate.
We do not have the intermediate trainer at the
We have no
moment.
choice.
So this is an aircraft being utilized for training purposes.
So, may I, from my little, I'd say, vantage position, say, LCA was supposed to replace the MiG-21.
That's right.
10 years ago, and that has delayed the I will say that has forced us to keep the earlier variants of
still going.
MiG-21
Yeah.
still service.
Avian Brad, even other MiG aircraft, MiG-27 and 29, they also seem to have a debatable safety track record. But we still find that they are still being inducted. For example, I believe the Navy is commissioning a MiG-29K squadron called the Black Panthers. So is that okay in your opinion?
Yes, it's a beautiful aeroplane. It's got the power weight ratio is fantastic. It's got the avionics. It's got the weapons and all.
No, I don't.
Very good.
Where do you get the impression? MiG-21 is a two-engine aircraft. So is the Su-30s. As well as Su-30 and MiG-29 almost same type of airframe. You find it's a Su-30 is a little bit bigger version of it, and that has got a very good safety record. I think MiG-29 we not lost even 2 aircraft, and
so we've lost I think 3 or 4.
3 or 4 aircraft in 10 years.
Yes, sir.
More than 10 years.
Yeah, Marshal Ahmed Singh, of the aircraft that we have today, which is your dream aircraft if you were to fly one?
Well, sir, I have been out of touch with flying for a long time. I have flown the MiG-29 a few sorties.
Okay.
Su-30, everybody says is a very, very fine aeroplane. So,
Avian Brad, your choice of an ideal aircraft, let's say 2 years from now.
Su-30, I think. I think it's a fantastic aeroplane. I've flown 2 sorties. It's very simple. It's not all that difficult to fly.
Okay.
But the avionics, the
Sidhu,
cockpit,
which aircraft would you bet on amongst the ones we have?
Rafale. We look forward to having the Rafale in the Air Force. Su-30, without doubt, I've also flown not 1 or 2 sorties in the aircraft. It's an aircraft which matches modern technology. It's good to handle. It has a twin cockpit fighter crew, which is a luxury for a fighter pilot. But Rafale.
Yeah, we have some of these, and we're going to get some of these. But I think for some time we'll still have to.
That'll be the mainstay. We're going to have 272 aircraft. Su-30 MKI. It will be the mainstay, much like the MiG-21. So
look
Air Marshal himself, if we flown, we commanded the same squadron.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you very much for joining us in the discussion. There is no doubt that various variants of MiG-21 aircraft have served the Indian Air Force well, especially during the critical phase of the 60s and 70s. However, since the lives of the fighter pilots are very precious, it is desirable that the older aircraft are phased out and the process of inducting the trainer aircraft is hastened. That is all in Defence Line today. Do write your feedback. Good luck and goodbye.
खबरों की दुनिया में आइए, हमारे साथ कहीं भी और कभी भी जुड़िए। हम मिलेंगे फेसबुक पर, हम दिखेंगे यूट्यूब पर, हमें फॉलो कीजिए ट्विटर पर। खबरों के साथ बने रहिए रात दिन।